Hello, welcome to another edition of Between Two Nuts. Today I have Purp Minded with me, and we're going to be discussing the blending of anime and truth. So, back and forth through both what we currently deal with everyday life, whether that's in culture, society, or politics, but also having that reflected very deeply in anime. And even though this may not be exclusively a conversation limited to anime, because this can apply to a lot of different things, not just anime, but it's something like reoccurring themes. But anyway, thanks so much for coming today, Perp.
No problem.
But uh, we had a little mini chat before we started, but more basically, I guess we could just start with when did you first start watching anime? That's a big question because everyone started a little differently in life.
Yeah.
How old were you, and what was the first, I guess, thing that got you started?
I mean, I was fairly young. I got into anime because my brother at the time was watching it. So anytime my brother was into something, I was into it. Like if you would play basketball, I'd play basketball. Or, he plays baseball, I played baseball. That's pretty much how we grew up and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But, I was pretty much into a lot of the same things as my brother. And my first anime was my first anime was the usual like Pokemon and like Dragon Ball Z and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that,
Right.
and that kind of opened the doors for all that.
So it's like one. I know you start with one, and then you're like, I wonder if there's anything else like this one.
And you go down. Once you start one anime and finish that, then you just end up going through a rabbit hole. It's,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, I know that for a couple of my friends, it started with like Transformers or Voltron, and depending
okay.
on what versions you were watching, right? And then they kind of just started going because they got into more of the robotic, sci-fi in a sense, I guess, anime versions, and then they crossed over into horror, or
hmm
which is plenty, lots of vampires, lots of spooky stuff. When I was young, I was watching anime and didn't even know I was watching
Yeah,
it.
that's the thing. A lot of people watch like Pokemon didn't know they were watching anime.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it was like, you watch She-Ra and He-Man, or you watch, let's say, Voltron, or some people watched, like, older school people watched, like, Speed Racer, and then you got into more of, like, the common stuff, like Sailor Moon, which is something I got into. I was like, sign me up! And then Pokemon was there, obviously, and Hamtaro.
hmm Yeah, I remember Hamtaro.
um,
That's just funny.
It is. I was like, oh, a little ham toro. And that song, I was like, oh, God. Um, it stays in your head. But, you start out with, like, little shows and you don't realize that they're all anime based. And then, because when you're younger, it's like you know what Hello Kitty is. And there was a
Yeah.
phase with, like, let's say, here's a good example. It was like with Hello Kitty products. Um, for a while there, they were, like, hard to find and they were expensive because they were all imported from Japan. So good luck getting those for like anything less than $10 for something ridiculous, right?
All right.
Then all of a sudden now they have more American-based, I guess, import and exports, and now you can get Hello Kitty pretty reasonably priced and still have that same quality to some extent as the Japanese version. Um, and then you have like the Sanrio stores and things like that. Now you have anime in the same. Almost, I feel like anime's starting to do that with their products too, their toys and stuff.
Mhm.
The prices are starting to come. I don't know if you collect any of their anime figures or. Uh,
Oh no, but I know they're pretty popular over there in Japan.
oh yeah,
They have some unique pieces.
oh yeah. And when you go into like some of the geek stores, whether that's Think Geek or GameStop, unfortunately, or other like hobby game stores that are local to areas and stuff, you can
hmm
find some figures that were before, like let's say pushing $100. They're lowering down slowly. Like it's not there yet, but I
hmm
think it's gotten cheaper a little bit, because there was a few figures I was trying to collect for my middle son. He wanted a Sonic one, and it was one of those, I forgot the type because there was different ones that he wanted, but it was the one where you know, flipped out all the faces and the arms, legs,
Oh
and
yeah, I've seen those.
yeah, and they're really nice. Like I mean, obviously they have it for everything, but he wanted this specific kind, and it was only from Japan, and the thing was like direct from Japan or even indirectly through China, you know, retailers. It wasn't that expensive to a point, but if you bought them here in the States, it was like nearing 100. Oh, I would say $75 to 80. And it's for like this plastic thing with magnetic faces. I'm like, are you, and arms and stuff? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? But yeah, those types of figures, I noticed they're still expensive, but they are slowly lowering. It's just not as fast as I was hoping. But when going back into the anime topic, though, when you started getting into other genres and things like that, I guess because you're a part of like I guess I wouldn't want to say formally the Phantom Menace. I don't know if you consider yourself part of that.
No, I don't.
Okay, so like, how do you view, I guess, the influences of what's going on in the real world, like culturally, socially, politically, whatever? How it's affecting certain movies or maybe certain series?
I mean, I feel like this has been going on for like since movies have been a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they always, or just like any type of media, they always reflect what's going on in real life. Um, like me and Zob were talking about, Akira, how that whole movie takes place in 2019 and how technology is taking over and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
it's in this like dystopian future or something like that, and how like similar it is to like today, where this is a movie that came out in the 80s, and it's telling us what's going to be like in 2019, how technology is going to pretty much rule over our life, which to an extent it has. It's pretty much everybody has a device in their hand and stuff like that, and it's kind of spooky.
It is, because in the beginning it seemed more futuristic, like all of these ideas, Akira as being one of them, but how in the beginning, with how the future was looked at in, let's say, animated films or in regular movies, a lot of this stuff is coming to pass, but there's also those other like red, big warning labels, like too much influence and too much control, and
Yeah,
that's scary.
yeah, they always have that theme in animes, like of like this. I feel like Star Wars also kind of started that too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like always depicting, oh, here's this like one ruler, this whole idea of like this one world system, and
Mm-hmm.
just it's crazy. It's like it's definitely a thing. Some
Yeah.
people won't notice it if you don't tell them, but it's in a lot of like anime, and not just anime, movies, TV shows. Like they always have to base something around that.
Yeah. And they always
Like
have a
that.
tendency to, what do you call it, move something
Hmm.
into the view of the public for one reason or another. Now, do I think, like, there's been arguments, right, and we've all heard this, about predictive programming,
Yeah.
and, like, how some of these films have predictive qualities to them. And I've seen the examples, and some of them are very disturbing, and other ones you can easily dismiss.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
a broken clock is always right, at least twice a day. So,
Yeah.
is it possible it's just coincidence? I don't know. What do you think
It,
about
it's
that?
possible. It's like that saying, like you could speak things into existence and stuff. Like
Right.
you could like I could make a movie or something like that, saying like, oh, this is how life might be in like 2040 or something like that, and some of it might come true. So
Right. I mean, and it's like when you see a lot of these sci-fi films, well, specifically, like I remember a lot of anime films that there's always this oppressive, faceless mass, whatever it is, that has way too much influence and power. Sometimes you know who they are, sometimes you don't. And there's
Mhm.
always this sense of like a big brother, right? So it's kind of like that V for Vendetta type thing, except a little even more extreme, where technology is used to kind of police the people. And when you look at society now, you're like, well, what's going on with smartphones? What's going on with the
Mhm.
internet? Like when we post things, what is being censored and what is like okayed or approved? And that's the kind of disturbing direction our society's taken, is where you can flag someone for hate speech, and in some cases, I'm trying to remember the legislation they were calling it, but it was like pre-crime, where kind of like
Mhm.
Minority Report with
Yeah.
Tom Cruise, where they're like convicting people well before there's any evidence.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is a whole
That's
nother level.
creepy.
Yeah, I'm like,
Mhm.
so you say, well, this person could do a crime. That doesn't mean you go for it, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, when you had mentioned before about with Star Wars having the same kind of anti-establishment, and they kind of started that. I do think I agree with, in a sense, they, what I mean, as far as a bigger impact of like the us versus them, and because originally the Empire was kind of depicted as Nazi-esque. It was like
Yeah.
it was kind of reminiscent with that type of evil, and I know that George Lucas based it on that, you know. But meaning the Nazis and the stormtroopers are kind of like part of that programming of all the identical uniforms and so on. But when you look at Star Wars and then you see the anti-establishment feel to it, once again, also technology. And that film doesn't carry, it carries a lot of importance, but it's not like Akira. It's not like
Mhm.
Appleseed.
Yeah.
um, it's not like a lot of these other
Or,
sci-fi ones. I'm sorry, go ahead.
or no, I was like, or you just think about just all the movies that came out in the last 10 years, and how all of them have this end of the world type of vibe to them, where they have that same theme that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is the end of the world, or like The Walking Dead, how you got to wipe out certain amount of the population and stuff, and there's a lot of that. There's a lot of what's it called, population control. Like
Mm-hmm.
you see this, like this being talked about like a lot, population control, just like technology, 5G,
Yeah.
and you just start seeing things just coming together and stuff.
Yeah, the 5G thing is interesting because that is a I don't
That's not no regular, like it's not like 4G.
no. And
It's completely different.
yeah, it's a stronger, to a point,
Hmm.
what do you call it, overreach in a sense, because there's been some interesting comments made about the 5G. Some are observations from people that are watching these towers go up in cities,
Hmm.
whether that's in the UK or here in the United States. Um, but I have heard stories about, already about the dangers of being exposed too much to, let's just say, a regular, lithium cell phone, just having it
Yeah,
on your ear too much, for example, and how that can cause problems. And the studies that came out support that. But how
and
also wireless is dangerous too.
yeah, they try to hide that whole fact and say no, cell phones aren't linked to cancer and stuff, but people know that's bullshit. Like it's um any type of device like that, like you're going to run into some type of radiation or some shit, like you know um and that's what and like 5G is going to be worse, because like you're just going to have towers like every like 1,000 feet away from you or something like that.
Yes.
It's just
Mm-hmm.
going to be surrounded by it,
And that's,
and that's what.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and then with 5G, it's not only just going to be for cell phone stuff. It's going to be also just for daily life stuff. Like they definitely use it like at a McDonald's or something like that, where
Mm-hmm.
they want like a future where everything's just automated. So
Right. There was just that article about, well, I mean, we already knew about the interior part of McDonald's, like how they already have stuff automated inside, kind of like how a lot of
hmm
places in Japan will do that with their, like whether that's just regular food or sushi or whatever they're doing, where it's on conveyor belts, right? And you can order at your table or at the front. McDonald's is kind of doing something similar to that. Maybe not the conveyor belt, but definitely the whole setup with the automation at the actual cashiering. Well, now they're going to be setting up the drive-throughs to do that, and
Yeah.
completely automated at the drive, so you won't actually be speaking to a person, but rather you're just putting in your order into a screen. And when we get the dangers with this 5G, really there's a lot of unknowns to it still, but we can tell that with wireless technology there are side effects that do affect people. There's like people who are sensitive to Wi-Fi, and
Mhm.
even if there's certain frequencies involved in that or whatever, it's kind of like, you ever hear that story about those people? They were located all over like the Southwest and in middle parts of the country, like the Midwest areas, I guess, and they were hearing a hum,
Hmm.
and it was a very mysterious hum, and they couldn't figure out what this noise was. They went to the doctor. They had their ears checked. They thought they were losing their hearing because it was this ridiculously nonstop hum, and it was in relation. Um, this was on an episode, I saw it on a couple of different things, but the episode I'm specifically remembering is the one from Unsolved Mysteries, that old show, and because I have it on DVD for like the unexplained ones and stuff like that.
I remember that show.
It's a good show. Robert Stack is still the untouchable. So anyway, so it ends up that where these people were living were very closely, if not indirectly close, to military installations or bases that were running testing. And of course the military is like, we don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy. But they were actually found to have the source of these sounds, and it was due to testing of whatever machines or whatever technology at the time, which clarity wise is still not there about what that was. But people have a very similar experience with maybe it's almost like how people have a sensitivity to like electromagnetic fields,
Right.
things like that, and they have like a bit of a delusion. They start seeing crap, because it messes with them. They have a sensitivity. Well, the Wi-Fi, such as 4G, has already messed with people. So the 5G is supposed to, this could possibly push many people over because it does affect concentration,
Yeah.
and it does disturb sleep. And there are known side effects with wireless or different types of
Yeah.
technology.
If you ever like woke up in the middle of the night and you had like a headache or you just didn't feel good, that's a sign right there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and like people, I swear to God, every time I watch some kind of like bad K drama, you know, or one of those, and they're sleeping with their phone, I'm like, you're gonna get cancer. I'm like, why are you sleeping with your phone? Don't sleep with your phone. You got to keep it, put it on your side table or far, I would say keep it away from your head, at night, or turn it off. But either way, it's still receiving data, on some
Right.
level. As long as there's a battery in there, and it's, even if you just need, even if it's shut off, it's still receiving data. So you have to, it's a different kind of data depending on the phone, but you just take, you would have to
Yeah.
literally put the phone in another room. Don't put your router in your bedroom, things like
Yeah.
that. Because wireless,
So,
right.
and that's the thing. It's like we got all these Bluetooth devices and everything's wireless. It's just more and more. It's not healthy for us. Like they'll sell like, and that's the thing. These companies they know that this shit is dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll half-ass tell you the truth, but also just sell you. This is how they sell. They just sell you all these things based off convenience.
Right.
Be like, oh, this will make your life so simpler. Just here, buy this like robotic doll that can just help you do whatever and stuff around the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous.
And the other thing too is like you were saying, they're not clear about explaining the side effects of the radiation
Hmm.
that are in these products. And sometimes, they're not going to be completely honest, because once you, like you were saying, they're selling a product. So they're going to be like, oh, don't worry, Bluetooth is completely safe. Wireless in your home is completely safe. And 5G increases the amount of radiation. So if you're getting a certain amount of radiation already just from cell phones and towers and satellites, even TV sets, your computer, Um, everything. Imagine everything in your house that is currently wireless, and then you start to realize what that could look like if you were to if you were to take a magic mirror or a scanner and look at how much crap is in the air,
Right.
and you're walking through that. And some people are coping; they're actually tormented by how much wirelessness there is in the world. Like it does add up, and it does affect people negatively. And I have thought I've researched a little bit about it. Not with the 5G is still an ongoing thing because we don't know how much this will increase. But
Yeah, it's starting to get there. Like they said by like 2020 or 2021, it should be pretty much ready to go everywhere. Right now, like they got five, like a lot of cities got 5G and stuff. But that's what I said. Like when they're selling you these new cell phones and stuff, they have like 5G versions, which are like a waste of money at this point because there's not a lot of 5G around.
mm-hmm.
So you're kind of just paying extra money for nothing.
Right, and the thing is I don't think the like you were saying, and I agree, is that people are not well informed.
Nah.
So they don't really know what they're walking into with some of this technology because they're so busy selling it. And I understand, like everyone wants convenience, and yeah, there's going to be some paranoid people out there, absolutely. But I am also quite aware that for some people, there are health effects. Like I'm showing on the screen right now, there's documented 5G health effects, which it impacts skin health, your eye health, it lowers your bacterial resistance, and then it has increase your biologically active organs. So that means that could create bigger problems with developments of tumors or cysts
Hmm.
or polyps or whatever the hell. Pick one. Pick your mass, right? A form
It,
of cancer, whether it's benign or malignant, is another question.
and you think about all the stuff that we eat and drink and
Right.
we consume on daily, and it's all to keep us kind of dumbed down and stuff and whatnot.
I agree. I agree. Because I mean, when you look at, I was just talking to a few people because my middle son, I pay attention a lot to the system, like meaning what programs they're bringing in to schools, and public schools a fucking mess, dude. I mean,
Yeah,
holy crap. I mean, I don't. I mean, you're younger than
I don't know
me,
what they learning over there.
but how was school for you when you were in school? How was your classrooms? I mean, what did it? You know, you're obviously now you're not. Haven't been in school in a
Yeah.
while, but when you were in school, I mean, what was it like being in? I know you went to public school, correct?
Hmm.
So, what was it like? I mean, in your classrooms, did you feel like you learned anything, or was it based on the teacher?
I mean, like middle school, I'd say that's what I kind of learned the most because the teacher that I had at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because at the time in middle school, I spent my seventh and eighth grade years just being in one classroom. Um, but the teacher that I had, she wasn't just. I looked at her more as a mentor than a teacher because she never like sugarcoated nothing and stuff, so I respected that. But um, going through high school, this is where I really realized like a lot of this shit is just bullshit that we're learning. I was like, why am I learning certain things that's not going to help me? We should be just learning calculus. We should just be learning how to write checks and finance and stuff like that. Like stuff that's actually going to help you in the future. But I feel like they've changed the curriculum
Mm-hmm.
in school so much to where like I have an 8-year-old nephew, so it's like I kind of see how different it was like from when I was his age to like learning stuff. And it's definitely getting weirder. It's definitely getting weirder.
Well, the stuff that
Cause he
they're
comes home,
teaching is,
cause he
mm,
yeah, cause he comes home talking about some weird shit. So it's like
what has he brought up that's like a red flag for you? Is I mean, you're an uncle, so you're kind of like, what?
no, cause we was just talking about Naruto one time, and he's like, "Don't shame him." I was like, "What are you talking about shaming? Where are you getting this from?"
Whoa.
I was like, but it's just you could just not only like school systems, you just watch what the kids are watching on television and just how different that is, like from what I grew up with.
Hmm.
It's just, and just not only that, but even their math stuff is different than.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's just like, what is this fuck shit? What is going on?
It's
Why
true.
why is it just why can't just 1 + 1 equal 2? Why is it gotta be like, oh, you one, but you carry this over and carry that? It's just no.
Yeah,
It's
they
not.
the math doesn't make any sense, and it's what's the word? They do okay, very simple. Like I was talking to a friend of mine, they're like, well, they never. I was arguing with a friend of mine. They're like, oh, they never officially rolled out Common Core, and I'm like, well, they never officially did it, but they have. Because you take a very simple problem for mathematics, right? Something that's very simple, like when you and I, even when I'm older than you, but still, a simple math problem, and they've made it completely ass backwards and complicated to the point where you're making these kids go the longest way possible to get the answer. I don't
Mm,
believe it should just be handed to any kid. I mean, obviously it's a math problem, but why are you going like, instead of going linear, you're going horizontally and backwards to get to the answer? It makes no sense at all.
and, and I feel like in the future, probably like within the next 10, 20 years or so like that, because I see this a lot, like starting to happen now. It's just like a lot of parents are taking their kids out of public schools or private schools and just homeschooling them.
Mm-hmm. I did.
And
Yep.
yeah,
It,
and I think that's what's gonna end up happening.
yeah, it happened with. I did it with my eldest son. It was a while ago. I did it for 4 years, 5 years, 5 years. And the reason why I did it was because, okay, I don't know if this happened at your school, but I had this when I was in school happen. But I was in a city, like a big city, and I was like, we had like an average of 75 to 80 kids in a classroom, and that was in a city. So when I moved to the Southwest, the numbers average about 25 kids, maybe 40, maybe.
Hmm.
So his class that he had, he was, I think I'm trying to remember what grade he was in. He was in, I think he was in fifth grade. And they had combined grades in the same classroom because they didn't have enough teachers or space.
Mm,
So he was being taught with sixth graders, and then eventually what they did is they brought in some seventh graders because they ran out of space.
that's what it is.
Dude, the class was insane. So my son was lost in this mass of children. I had talked to the teacher many times trying to figure out how to help him because his English scores were terrible, right? And he was very lost. And I noticed that he had taken a huge hit in English, just regular writing, reading. I was like, what the hell? Like, where did this come from, you know? Math he struggled with. You know, it's kind of normal. Mathematics are always one of those things. Like, for me, it's an Achilles heel, but for other people, it's an average pain in the ass. It's not a big deal. Um, but he was not grasping English. And I was like, well, this isn't making any sense, dude. This is your primary language. Excuse me. So I didn't understand how he wasn't able to retain it. So I ended up talking to the teacher and pulling him because I had no choice. I was like, no, you know, he's not going to learn anything this way with all these other class. And she didn't blame me. She said, I don't blame what you're doing. She's like, if you need any resources, let me know. And I ended up
Mm,
getting him out. He was failing his English, and I
yeah.
didn't understand that shit. And he wasn't the only kid. There was all these other kids that were either failing or struggling, and this poor teacher was pushed to the. I mean, she had more than 40 kids, and she's teaching different grade levels in one classroom, which absolutely sucks. So I pulled him out, got him like homeschooled his. I homeschooled him not only for the current year, but a year ahead of himself. So that meant there was a lot of things that he didn't, grasp or attain like right away. But then once he did, he was ahead. So when he went back into
Okay.
schools, he got tested to, for placement, and they put him in AP English. And I'm like, holy shit, really? I'm like, okay, if I'm that good, then why are all my kids like Einstein's running around? It's the school systems, dude. It's the school
Yeah,
systems.
I had a chance to be in like an AP history class because I was really good at history, but I was like, nah, I don't want to do that much work. This is my senior year. I ain't trying to do that much work.
Yeah. Especially when you get that in high school. I mean, everything, like, I don't know. I stopped really learning anything when I got into high
Yeah,
school. Like, when I was in high school, I feel like, okay, sophomore was okay. Junior was fine, I guess. But I could have, like, you could have shaved off 11th and 12th grade and I would have been fine. You know, like,
yeah,
I skipped so much school in my last. Don't do that at home, kids, but I did. I don't give a shit. Um, I skipped most of my senior year because there was
yeah.
nothing to do.
Yeah.
And
It's like out of all the 4 years, your most probably challenging is going to be like freshman and junior year,
right,
and then senior year it's pretty much a cakewalk because all the teachers pretty much, for me at least, they treated you like children. Be like, all right, you can do whatever you want, pretty much,
right.
and and I feel like senior year that's when they should just be really teaching you like a lot of life shit and not just because I forget what it was called where you go to school for half the day and then you leave to go to work and stuff. I forget what that was
Oh,
called.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like the work program they have set up. I
Yeah,
forgot the hell of the name.
I wish I was able to do that, but I like I said, like I didn't learn nothing my senior year. I failed half my senior year, like halfway through. I was like, fuck.
Now, did you
'Cause
graduate on time or did you graduate
yeah,
late?
I graduated on time, surprisingly, because like all the teachers, like they would just say, "Hey, just do a bunch of book work. I'll give you extra credit and stuff." I was like, "All right, word, I can do that,"
Right.
and I passed barely. So
Yeah, I had the same experience because I just got so bored by my senior year. I was skipping so much that I graduated a month late. So because of my math, which fuck that teacher. Anyway, but I graduated instead of May. I graduated in June, and then I did go on to go to college. And I remember when I was in school, I was told that, and I don't know, this is a different time in a sense, but they were always like big on testing. They were like, oh, SATs and all this bullshit, so you could get ready to go to college. And there was this huge
yeah,
push. And then for me, when they finally dealt with me, they were just like, oh, you're not going to go to college. You don't have the grades. And so when I finally did go back and I did graduate, I got a bachelor's or whatever. I remember that when I went in thinking, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this because I don't test well. You know, I hate tests. I think they're a waste of time, sitting down doing a test. I'd rather apply it. Um,
right,
instead of just be like, oh, this is what this is. Give me a project to apply this to, not just a bunch of questions that are useless. Or like, if I have to do a written something, let it be an essay because I can write. That's not an issue, right? But I don't like things that are impractical, and I think some testing is useless. I don't think you can, especially public school testing, like state tests and shit.
yeah.
Oh my god, who cares?
I hated that shit so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the worst time of the year. Whenever they had like those testings, whatever it used to be, the GEPAs or the SATs or
Mm-hmm.
YZs and shit. Like I hated that shit
Because it was the
so much.
same shit over and over again. They're like, well, why aren't you getting this? Well, why is it not different? I'm just.
Right.
It's the same shit over and over again. And I remember being burned out about testing. I didn't care anymore. I was like, what's the point of this crap? Like, I don't care. And if I'm not going to go to college, like, now the way they are about it, I remember my eldest, he graduated in, oh, what year? Um, 2017, he graduated. And they had all this pressure on him, and they were like, oh, well, the only way you're going to succeed is this way and that way. Because when he re-entered the school system here in the state of Texas, I had been homeschooling him prior, and he didn't have what they consider to be appropriate credits. So he had to make up
Mm.
all those credits. Well, he went into the school system in like the fall with the need for 20. He had to make up 23 credits to graduate, and he and I just talked about it, and it really upset me because they wouldn't accept anything that we had done at home or any kind of support documentation, which he had.
That's
Basically,
bullshit.
yeah, they basically said no, we can't do that. So he ended up getting all the credits done for graduation. And then how he did that was because, and this is really fucked up, is that, they have that thing where, like, they have, like, study labs, where they can have you do, like, testing to see where you place
Mm-hmm.
and stuff to basically qualify for certain credits. And a lot of it, like, after he was done with quite a bit of it, one day he and I were talking, and he was like, this stuff is just so, he goes, I'm ahead of it. He goes, like, the public schools are behind. And I was like, whoa. Like, and then when he was showing me what they were actually doing, dude, they were still teaching, like, Revolutionary War crap. Like, I'm like, this is, like, grade school stuff,
I
dude. Or middle
I was
school.
it also it's like it's also like I'll tell you how it was kind of broken down in my school. We had these five levels. We had level one through five, five being the lowest,
Mm-hmm.
and level ones being the highest. So when you go pick your classes and stuff, like you could be like, all right, I want to do a level three English, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like pretty much average. That's an average. Like all my, I picked all level fours and fives. I didn't give a damn. Like, but like that's another thing that kind of like people don't realize, and they think that means something. Like picking a level two English class or going for an AP English class. It doesn't matter. Like everybody's learning the same thing. It's
Right.
just
Different levels.
because it's funny because we'll have like there'll be like a level like I'll be like a level four or five English like class, and we'll do the same tests that like a level two or three would do, and like we would actually perform better than them and stuff, and it's just because like it's a smaller class, so it's like you get more
Assistance, I guess.
yeah, you get more assistance, and it's a little bit easier to concentrate and whatnot, but. That's another thing, people always look down on you or just say you're slow or something like that
Yeah.
because you took a lower level class. So it's like, no, we're learning the same things as you. Sometimes even more. Like I remember the math class I took in senior year. It taught us all about pretty much finance, like how to write a check, how to balance your check, and just do all this stuff. I was like, all right, yeah, this is what we should have been learning like the last four fucking years. Shit,
See,
like
dude, they didn't
it's very
even have
helpful.
that shit when I was in school. Like,
Mhm.
like we had like one class called Life After Graduation, and that was an elective and not a requirement, and it should have been a requirement because the class taught you how to balance a checkbook. It taught you how to maintain a household, how to learning basic care needs, how to buy a house, like just the common sense factors of buying a home
Mhm.
and simple shit. I mean, it's not like in depth, but it's enough for you to go and be able to ask some educated questions to make a decision whether or not you would be ready to buy a home, right? Or rent an apartment or whatever the hell you want to do. But they don't really, it seems like the public school systems now, and I don't blame the teachers. I blame the school districts and I blame the states, including the federal funding they're getting, because how it works for most states now is they're teaching the test because they need to get a rating for the school. Like they need to get that A plus rating, right? They need to get 5 stars or whatever the hell they want to become a STEM school, whatever the hell, some fancy word, so they can get money, and they want to get this 5 star rating so they can get the funding from the state/federal government to keep the school going. But in order for them to do that, they have to teach the test. And I had, oh my God, I have two young squirrels, and their school is set up where the original school they were in, they just went to they're just starting a new school because I was done. The school had a very poor sense of communication with parents. Everything was last minute, and I can't stand that shit. So like I get a call and it'd be like that night. I'm like, what the hell? Like no, the organization of it was poor, but on top of it, they were teaching the test all year long, and they would get these kids stressed out over the testing as if this is like a make or break your life type thing, and it's not. They also, I don't know if this was how, I don't know how your school was. Mine wasn't as aggressive as this, so that's why to me it's like a red flag, right? When
Mhm.
they're basically preparing these kids to go to college, and that's the end goal for them, is to say, oh, we're getting you ready to go to college because you're going to get student loans, or you're going to get grants and scholarships, or whatever. You're going to join the military. And a lot of these kids are going into, community colleges or larger colleges. Like maybe they go and get like their simple core class, their regular, core classes done, like math and English and shit done at the community, and then they go off to a big university. But this is all money that a lot of these kids don't have, and they don't have the grade point average to collect the scholarships. They might get a couple, but it's not going to cover the total cost of all this shit. So it's like they're forcing these kids into these colleges where you were saying, where they're using words like shaming and privilege and what else? Safe space and political justice to justify basically wasting money. I've been years past, I used to, and this is not related to any work I'm doing right now, but years past, I did editing for a website. I'm doing one right now, but it's not related. It's a whole other site. So this was many, many years ago. I was editing for a site, and there was a lot of college-educated people. And I'm talking like business degrees and law. The lawyers weren't bad to edit their stuff. Like, their stuff was usually pretty clean. Very well done. No weird shit. But when you got into the business degrees and you got into anything else that didn't require written communication, I guess, it was a nightmare. Like, they were not, I don't know how to explain this, dude. Have you ever read a sentence and, like, it's kind of like when Lee says a sentence and you're not sure what he just said. It's the same. It's like, you that's why I'll correct him, because I have to teach, I teach my daughter to read phonically, not by sight words, right? Which is a whole nother topic. A very interesting one, but anyway, so I'm editing all these very nice articles, and they look, I say nice, but they were really rough, because they weren't, whoever was writing it wasn't reading what they wrote. So the way they were writing it was like as if how you and I are talking. So that means, like, maybe, like that kind of shit.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what the? This isn't a podcast, So we'd edit it, clean up, make it look nice, and I had a couple of them get irritated with me, and I said, well, maybe you should read what you write, and then go ahead and submit it to be published, on the article or whatever. And they would get frustrated, but then they would do it, and then they would catch it. So some of them, ego in the way, not going to say anything, but their work got better quality because they started to pay attention to how they write. And I was listening to, I'm sorry, not listening. I was reading an article, and I think you might find this interesting, especially related to this, right? Is that these two professors were absolutely bitching because the university they were in was telling them that they shouldn't basically punish their students with bad grades if they cannot write well. And the professors were like, listen, I teach English. The other one taught like history. They're like, or different types, some type of high-level history courses. And they're like, the students need to be able to communicate their points clearly. A lot of the papers they were seeing, the students weren't using any, like they were using internet lingo and buzz shit. So they weren't communicating at all very well. And so the teachers,
like,
right.
So they write like SMH.
Yes.
Frank. Yes. That's crazy.
Or WTF. And
see, that's like me. Like when it comes to social media, like I don't give a fuck about grammar. Like people will try to give me shit about grammar. I was like, bruh, this is Twitter. Like whatever. It's just, but I don't want to like take the time to like put parentheses here. Like it's nothing official. Like if it's something official, yeah, we'll like type it officially. But if I'm on social media, like I'll talk however I want. But on like a professional thing, like I know like how to write and all that stuff. Like that's what that comes in handy. But yeah.
Well, absolutely. If you're doing business, you want to be able to like keep your job or not have any issues come up or miscommunications. But like they were writing this stuff, I guess the professors were saying they were writing their stuff like, to be honest, was TBH. And then and not writing out full sentences, man. And these were papers, these were essays and shit for like college degrees. And and I'm like, not everybody writes a lot in their college program. I understand that. I mean, I was in a theology class. My course was in theology. My major was in theology, but the majority of my writing was like I was writing history papers, because religion or theology in general, religion, theology, all that fun stuff blend into history a lot. So you're always looking at historical events and all this other bullshit. So you're constantly citating and writing things a certain way, and having a teacher, many teachers in every professor I had a different set of rules, and you had to it was learning to pay attention to the details of what they were requesting, and they would ding you. Like, I remember one teacher, if I like, how like people write out, let's say a really long citation like in the reference,
Mhm.
the teacher would ding you 20 points if you forgot to put a semicolon.
That's
Or
crazy.
whatever the fuck. One little thing off, you got 20 points deducted per citation.
Jesus.
I was like, dude, that's my paper. If you end up screwing up your citations, you just blew up your paper. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I had gotten hit a couple times, and I was like, oh shit, because I was like 30 points, 40 points, whatever the hell. And I was like, well, now I'm down to like a C, on a paper that would have been like an A or a B. But I think that when it comes to proper grammar use and language, learning how to write appropriately, it's absolutely necessary to understand those rules in any kind of classroom you're in. But I think also, I don't know if, talking about, I know we got off on a topic about random shit, but have you seen any noticeable differences with your nephew? How does he do with reading? Is he pretty good with reading?
Oh, he's amazing. He's doing shit I would never do at that age. Like the big ass. He reads big ass books. I'm like, he
Good.
comes home with like multiple books and stuff. I'm like, I appreciate that about him. Like
Did
he'll
your
he'll be in his own. Like earlier in his life, he would read the same book like 1,000 times. It's like, bro, you read that book already. Like, he's like, I know, I like it. But like, he's reading like 200-page books and stuff like that, and
Good.
it's crazy.
Was that something that you're like, you as a family, or maybe your sister encouraged him to be a reader, or your
I
brother?
mean, I think he just gets that from my brother because my brother is very smart. So it's
Mm,
like,
he's a
you
reader, I
know,
guess.
yeah, but my nephew, he just likes everything that like a normal kid should like
Mm-hmm.
as a kid. Like he likes fruit. He likes all healthy. He likes a lot of healthy stuff. Sometimes he prefers his junk food, but he likes to read, which is really surprising
That's
to me.
fantastic.
Just like, yeah,
Because honestly, like, a lot of kids don't read enough, and I think it is about the parent. You know what I mean? Like, um, like with every kid, they have their interests. But like with my eldest son, he's a reader. But my middle son, he hated reading. Absolutely fucking hated it. Couldn't get this kid to do it. So I started picking him up comic books. And that's what got him reading. And I was like, I don't care. If this is what'll help him read and get him interested in reading, or even moving on to like graphic
Uh,
novels and stuff, who cares?
yeah. Like my nephew, right? Like he's really. I'll catch him always like when I come in the house. Like I catch him always watching Naruto. Like he can literally tell you everything about Naruto, like just in one sitting, like so far and stuff. He's like, oh, this character can do this. Like he just picks up on stuff so quickly, which is crazy.
And it's good too, because a lot of kids, like, they do go through a phase where, it's not so much fun to read, blah blah blah, whatever, and they get bored with it. But the
Yeah.
fact that he gets so invested in reading, it's not many kids. Unfortunately now, especially with the internet, people get very lazy reading shit on the internet.
hmm
They just don't read it. I'm like, why? It's like a giant library, you know. And
Like
go ahead.
he was sorry to cut you
No,
off,
it's all right.
but he was like the other day he was messing with my brother's computer, like with the Google stuff, and he was like, oh, he changed something like he changed the background of the Google thing, and my brother was like, yo, I didn't even know you could do that, and my brother's on his computer all the time, like he's always editing, That's his thing. He knows technology and stuff. But he didn't know you could change like the background of like when you're on your main like Google page, you could change the background. And so I was like, damn, I didn't even know that neither. Like, the hell?
Well, you leave it to kids, you know, like you get a kid in front of a computer or any kind of technology, just like when we were young, like, you know, it's a curiosity thing, and there's a
Yeah.
natural curiosity, and so like with when it comes to reading or it comes to technology, there's it's like kind of like one of those weird crossroads where they're either both very good at one another, or they pick one and that's they're absolutely on it. And
Hmm.
my my middle son, even though he's not much of a reader, technology wise, he is he's much more further ahead than I thought he would be. You know, he picks up and finds little things like that. Not as much, you know, obviously a reader as your nephew, but definitely at least technologically inclined. And when it comes to video games, which is his thing, he knows everything about that. Just like how he is about Naruto, my son is like that about like Undertale, Deltarune, which is a sequel to Undertale, and then Cuphead and other Steam games that he gets into phases with. And
Yeah.
he'll want to know everything about it, and then he'll write his own version of the video game.
My only thing about my nephew is that like his attention span is shit. It's just like he could be stuck in his reading, but like if like he'll find something that he can get easily distracted. Like my brother will try to tell him to go do something, and if I go around talking to him, he'll get completely sidetracked and stuff, and go off and try to do his own thing and whatnot.
Well, he has a very active brain.
Yeah, too
Anyway.
too active. He has way too much energy.
And that, but it's like a lot of these kids, a lot of that, because like you know how people are so quick to say, oh, they have ADHD, right?
Hmm.
I do think yeah, some kids have some hyperactive to them, but I also think it's because they're bored. They have to
Yeah.
keep their brain going all the time, otherwise, nothing gets done. You know, they're just so preoccupied with uh, getting things done or wanting to stay busy that they don't pay attention to like people around them or better yet like what's healthy for themselves and not healthy blah blah blah. But with I think with kids who are especially obsessive with TVs or uh, technology in general, like let's say smartphones, video games,
Hmm.
all that crap, even smartphones especially, like the kid, I have not allowed that yet with the kids. Like I'm not there yet. I'm like, no, you can wait. How old were you when you got your first cell phone?
Probably like 13, which is pretty late
Uh,
considering.
That's
'Cause,
crazy. 13 is
yeah,
late.
like yeah, it's like because at the time I remember the Razor phone was the thing to have and everything in middle school. I think that was my first phone. I could be wrong.
Oh,
Probably
Razor.
so. No, 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 no. It's actually was one of those LG shits, whatever.
Slide ones?
Nah, nah. It was like a flip phone.
Oh, okay.
Flip phones. Jeez. Um.
You're starting to age yourself without even knowing it.
Yeah, but like I think that's what I got at sometime in middle school. Some people that's when everybody usually started getting their cell phones and
Hmm.
stuff. I never seen nobody with a cell phone in like elementary. So because everybody would go out like by the time we was in middle school, everybody was like just doing stuff on their own, like going to the skating ring or going to the movies. Like we didn't have no parents around us really and stuff like
Right.
that. So,
And
but yeah,
now,
it's.
now it's just like everybody's got. I mean, smart. It
It,
blows my mind.
and it's crazy because like it's so easy, and I kind of understand why people are addicted to like devices and just cell phones because it's just like you have this huge screen
Hmm.
and just you have access to whatever you need on it and stuff. Where back when you had flip phones, it was just like T9ing, just texting using T9 or just calling somebody. You know, nobody was going on the nobody was searching the web like on a fucking 2-inch screen.
Right.
it
Oh yeah. Like Nokia's
just
and shit. Like there wasn't that kind of technology.
yeah, it just now it's just now with like now that like instant messenger is gone, it's like phones kind of took that spot where
Yeah,
it's just like instant messenger was like the original Facebook,
that's so
and
true.
now and then now when MySpace came, that changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
That changed everything, and just now everybody's all about social media. It's just being on their phones and text, 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 text. It's just,
And it doesn't end. It just keeps going.
hmm
So like now you have tablets, and then it goes into like these touch screen, like
hmm
unfoldable laptops. And you had shown me the rollout cell phones from Samsung, wasn't it? Um,
Yeah, they have that technology. Like, yeah, because even the smartphone market is declining
mm-hmm.
because things are just getting like smartphones are just getting more expensive.
Yeah.
And this channel that I watch, Front Page Tech, John Prosser, he even said like the industry doesn't need innovation, they need compromise, and that's why like cell phone companies are kind of like their sales are kind of suffering because people are holding onto their phones longer. So it's like, but that's a whole other thing.
It is true. I mean, the how fast technology is changing
hmm
is, we've talked about this many times before, but it's just unbelievable because they're pushing things in some arenas, and in others it stayed exactly the same as it always has.
hmm
They're not, it's like they're kind of like, what do you want to call it, filtering out how advanced things are platforms so they can cash in on them in a certain manner. You know, it's like the bendable screens and all that. That's been my biggest complaint with smartphones. Is like, I haven't broken, knock on wood, I haven't broken a smartphone yet, but I know plenty of people who have, just by accidentally dropping it, or it
Yeah.
hitting the floor in a certain way, or not having your case in a certain way, or maybe uh, there's just a defect in the phone itself. But now you have all of this technology coming out where you have bendable screens that roll, and that's the future with Samsung, which I think is absolutely
hmm
amazing and long overdue. But like, I know that this year, just like last year, the iPhone took a hit with sales big time. Nobody's buying that crap. It's the same shit.
Yeah,
And the phones look
pretty
like
much.
trash.
It's just it's not even that, like I give Apple a lot of shit, but it's just like, but like all these phones that come out now are good. They're like that's also like what's kind of shooting themselves in the foot. Like they made these phones so good that it's just like you don't need to keep upgrading every year,
Hmm.
because they don't change that much. So,
Right. So it's like,
you
why
know,
not save the energy and then roll out something that's, I don't know, something to talk about.
like you got people still rocking their iPhone 6s and stuff, and that came out like 5 years ago.
Yep. Yep.
Crazy.
And it's like, when I'm showing pictures of like the roll screens and the foldable screens and all the different, for the tablet and for the
Yeah, and
smartphones.
and wearables are going to be a big thing too, and AR and all that stuff. I think that's where cell phones are going to go, where it's just good. You're going to wear either like a smart band
Mm-hmm.
or like a smart watch, and that's going to replace a cell phone and whatnot, or like AR glasses that can replace a cell phone. But
That,
they've definitely peaked. Smartphones have definitely peaked. That's why you see like foldable devices coming up and whatnot, because it's like they've already achieved having full like that was their goal, to have a device that has a huge display, all display, and no bezels and stuff. So they've gotten to the point. What's next? Once you put all the camera sensors and stuff underneath the display, and you put everything like that's cell phones have reached their peak, especially smartphones.
and that's the kind of stuff where you don't know how far it'll go, like where they're going to take it, but it's kind of an
hmm
exciting idea that, okay, there is some technology that's going to be beneficial.
hmm
How evasive is that technology going to be? Like, how GPSy is it going to be? How are they going to, and with having so much of that technology, how no one's going to be hidden, that's for sure. Everyone
Yeah.
will be on on the map, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. If you got a cell phone, you're being tracked at all times.
Yeah, remember when people would first say that, and everyone else was like, "Oh, you're just being a conspiracy theorist," and that's not true. And then it came out, Facebook's like up in your DMs, selling your data.
Yeah,
Come
all,
on.
all the phones have RFID and stuff like that's the stuff they use to track things and
Right, like
whatnot. Like,
passports have that, ability
mm,
in them. So like when you start dipping into more of that wearable, technology where you have it on you, or your skin, might be utilized as like a screen. That's
yeah,
that's mind blowing stuff right there. You're like, oh,
yeah.
okay,
Like I keep seeing these rumors of like smart glasses. I was like, look, I don't like the idea. Like the idea of smart glasses is cool, but if it's not going to help me see, I don't want to sit there and wear like two pairs of glasses. I'm good. I don't care about.
it's true. I wear glasses too, so it's like, well, I don't wear them all the time, but still, it's the inconvenience of having to wear some kind of technology, and plus, then you're messing with your eyes even further because it is a screen.
Hmm.
So it's like, having the wearable technology, like I'm okay to a point of having, like, let's say, like the bands where you have like the screen that shows up on your arm, as opposed to carrying around an actual cell phone with you, but it's all embedded into like a bracelet, or maybe a small like console. I don't know, like this kind of looks like one of those stepper things that, what do you call them? Those walking meters that tell you how many steps you've taken.
Yeah.
It's like one of those, Fitbit or whatever.
Yeah, I got a smartwatch. I'm so bad I bought that shit. But it is cool, but it's definitely like
Which brand did
if
you
you're
get?
not yeah, huh?
Which brand did you get with that?
I just got the Samsung smartwatch, like
Mm.
the top of the line at the time. It's just oh my god, I hated how I just like I fell for the okie doke and just but it was a buy one get one free, so I was like, why not get something nice for my mom for once? I haven't got her anything in a while,
Right.
so
That's how they
if
get you.
if they didn't have that, then I would have just said nah. But I'm trapped in there, so it is what it is.
This technology though, it's like I really love the idea of rollable stuff. I like the idea of like foldable
Hmm.
screens and all these things like that. Um, I like the wearables to a point. I agree. There's still like I have privacy is privacy, and I don't like to be honest. I hate being too accessible. So
Yeah.
I remember like when I was younger, you didn't even have a cell phone really on you at all, and when I think I had a pager, and then I got a cell phone like very quickly, and then man, I didn't like being too accessible. At least with a pager, you're like, okay, well, I would have to find a phone to call this person back. Well, if I don't find a phone, I'm not calling them back. It's one of those. Um, but with a cell phone, it's like you can't say you didn't get a call. You can say you missed it, but then you have voicemail, you have texting now, you have
Yeah.
emails, you have instant messenger, you have hangouts, you have all this crap. You have like FaceTime, and
I mean, people can find you.
yeah, man. Like sometimes I want to disappear. Is that cool? Like I don't need people to know where the hell I am.
Thank God for do not disturb button on your phone now. So
Thank God. Yes, that was. I've used that a few times. I'm like, yeah, I'm not here. And a lot of it's just because I have other stuff going on, and when you're
yeah,
constantly accessible, it makes it very difficult to get shit done.
it, sometimes you got to step out of the matrix.
Unless the Matrix has already taken your soul. Screw.
Yeah, like there's definitely benefits of having social media and stuff, but there's also a lot of negativity and drawbacks to just technology and all that shit. Just like how you said, like people can get to you quicker. A lot of people get doxxed. That's how people get doxxed faster and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
like the doxing thing too. It's like I had spoken with someone a while ago, and I had went off on Lee about this. Like, listen, you don't need a special friend who has contacts to find people. Like, the internet is not that difficult to find people, unfortunately.
Yeah,
You know,
you could literally people could probably find me if I just type in my name. You'll probably have a bunch of other people pop up, but it's not that hard to find.
right?
Not that hard to find.
It's just that, what do you call it? It's about a filtering process, and you know, in the end, it's like with the vindictiveness that can go on both sides of any argument, because it does happen, right? We see it all the time. There is no like when stuff goes on in the collective, right? Which I don't feel that I'm a part of the Phantom Menace at all. Like I'm a supporter of the right, meaning the things that I believe are the proper things to be in support of. But I'm not part of a collective because I think it's dangerous to think that way. When you start saying, I'm part of this group of people, that means you're fucking going to be held accountable for that some fool being an ass. Because that will happen, you know what I mean? Like, there will be one person who starts shit, and then all of a sudden they go after the entire group. Right?
Right.
And that's how you get that us and them shit. And I look at people as individuals. If they act like an individual ass, then they're an individual ass. But when you start speaking on behalf of other people, that's none of your... Like, I don't like it when women speak on behalf of other women. You know? I tell women,
Right.
you know, I don't... That's just like, if you wouldn't want one guy saying, well, all men do this, you'd be like, motherfucker, stay to yourself.
Right.
So...
Some people just don't know how to mind their own business.
Exactly. They feel like... And they have to have people, like... Some... Now, I'm not saying this about the Phantom Collective or a Phantom Menace or any of these smaller groups, even SJWs, really. But... It depends on who you are within these groups. There's always going to be people who have egos. There's always going to be people who want to puff out that chest and start shit because they want to feel like they're top dog because they didn't get enough hugs when they were fucking 10. But, you know, you have to, you know, differentiate individuals versus groups. And I think when people start joining a group and say, well, we're all in this together. No, we're not. You know, you guys you can do whatever you'd like, but I'm not going to apologize for your bullshit or defend you when I know you're wrong. I'm not. I don't believe in, what do you call, giving someone like just saying, oh, it's okay because he's part of that group. No. Like everybody's, you know.
And that's the thing about groups. Like, you have those people that, you know, are ride or die. You know, that's understandable. You know, if you support that person, you should support that person. But then you got the straight up dick riders that just like sit there and just do nothing but dick ride and just, you know, don't do anything to help the cause or just, you know, move things forward. You just want to engage with like just a bunch of bullshit that, you know, it's not going to like. Let me see if I can come up with like an example. It's like
there's too many.
All right, say if I started a group and I had a certain vision for this group, but then like you have one person in my group that I don't even really know like that, but they want to go off and do their own thing and, you know, twist my vision or twist my words around and stuff, and
yeah.
And that's what creates problems and stuff within these big ass like collectives and stuff like that. Not everybody's like minded. Some people just take it way too far, where it's just like, you know, they make it personal and stuff, and that's what kind of ruins your movements and stuff.
Yeah, because you get that, they start getting nastier, and then it's to the point where it's a liability, and it's going to pull everybody down with them, or very poor decision making in general, and it's not. I think there are a lot of good people in every, you know, to be honest with you, like as far as the SGW stuff, I think that's just a whole other indoctrination. But when it comes to, go ahead.
Oh, no. It's just, I wanted to add on to that. Like, and if you're the leader of this said group and you're doing the same thing that like you don't like trolls doing and stuff, then you're not a leader. You should just, you're just, you know, when you're a leader, you should be rectifying like the situation so it doesn't escalate.
Right.
You know, you should never put things out publicly to just embarrass somebody or make an example of somebody and stuff like that. Like that's not the way you like a leader goes about doing things.
Well,
you know,
yeah,
dictators do that, but like real leaders,
right?
They'll take that certain person and say, oh, all right, we're not going to talk about this in public, but DM me. You know, don't put somebody out for showcase and for everybody else to come attack. You know, that just makes you look weak.
Well, yeah, and I think And I also believe, though, too, is like if you somebody instigates, you know, I mean, like
Mm.
say, like you were saying before, you have a group of people and one person decides to go off and start twisting things, or instigating, you know, just going out and saying and being inappropriate to other people, just for the sake of, you know, just poking the bear, and then that person
Yeah.
gets bit. They cannot come back and expect other people to support that behavior. I don't like when I see that shit. I mean, you know, I don't fight with SGWs on Twitter. Like,
Hmm.
why? Like, first off, I don't feel like it's going to be a valuable experience. I'm not
That's
going to, you know, it's it isn't a school, this isn't high school anymore. Now, maybe for some people it is because they're trying to work through some problems. I don't fucking know, but um, it's stupid because then you get drug into other problems and then you become a target, and it's all
hmm
because you wanted to
Right.
puff your chest out, you know what I mean, and try to be a big dog, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like if you're going to go attack somebody or even come at somebody, keep that same energy when they respond. Don't 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 flip it up and say, "Ah, no, it's just this is all jokes." Yeah. No, just keep that same energy because that's gonna hurt you too. And same thing with like the people within any type of group or whatnot. Always keep that same energy because once you don't, people are going to use that against you, and you see, it's not going to look good for you, and it might just end up crippling whatever you try to start and whatnot.
No, it's true, and it always comes back around. It always does,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
like,
karma always comes back around.
dude, it always does. Even when they're like, "Oh no, I blah blah blah," and then it happens, and they're all upset. You know, the tail between the legs and the whole nine. It's like I won't defend somebody, or I don't think, well, this person is right because they're my friend. I think this is a human being who's just as fucked as the rest of us, who is going to make
Hmm.
terrible mistakes. And no matter how much I may like a person genuinely, if I, you know, if unless we've had a conversation about what's going on and they're trying to figure something out, you know, that's one of the few times that, you know, I will be involved is where I'm doing kind of that mediation part. But, you know, because there's been bickerments within, you know, uh, certain groups that we're friends with and outside groups and so on. And, you know, I mediate a little as much as I can, but there's some points where I feel like, you know what, there's nothing I can say. You just have
Right.
to let people do it to themselves, and otherwise they're not going to learn. But social media becomes like this war back and forth. Um, not
It's so
just,
easy to get caught into it. So easy.
oh God, yeah. Sometimes it's just, I was put into a position like when I wasn't even on YouTube a month, and it was an intergroup issue that happened, and I was caught unawares, and I was lied to on top of it, which pissed me off, and it put me in the middle of something that I had not expected, and it pissed me off, and no, I'm not going to just like be okay with it. It's going to piss me off. Once the thing just pissed me off, I make a mental note, I move on, let it go, but I always keep in mind that that happened. You know, that means the next time I see some trouble come from the same sources or individuals, I will know to duck and cover and get the hell out of the way of their bullshit because they have instigated something there. You know, and in most of the time that's been accurate. Not all cases, but quite a few. um, so it's like getting caught up in that drama was not expected, and I had to make clarify myself more than a dozen times because it was easy to think, oh, I was involved by association because people can't think based on individualism. They can only think on a collective. Just because you talk to someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're involved, or that maybe, or if you have knowledge of something, does not mean that you are involved. Sometimes you're just in the wrong. You know, like when you're standing at a party and you ought to have a cigarette or whatever, you're out smoking outside and there's a big group of people and you're listening because you're just standing there. It's the same fucking thing. You just happen to be a smoker, but that doesn't make if there's a smoker out there that's a what do you call it, a sadist, like a homicidal maniac, does that make everyone out there a homicidal maniac in that situation? No.
Right.
But you don't know that until you see it, and then once you see it, you can only distance yourself from it and get away from it, at some point, or address it and see exactly what the hell's going on if this is true. But
Right.
once again, association is not always a pretense to guilt. Like like a lot of people in what do you call it, Phantom Menace, the opposing side to SJWs, whatever those groups. There's a bunch of them, not just this little niche of the internet. There's a ton of these groups that are against this politically correct nonsense. They do they bitch that the SJWs are collective and they just follow each other around like sheep, and they echo chamber each other. But that's exactly what happens on the opposing side as well.
Right.
You get all the same shit. People be fighting and losing their minds over dumb shit.
Because I'll be honest. I'll be real honest. Like, I don't understand the like with the whole Phantom Menace thing. Like, I honestly don't understand their movement. I really don't. It's just like what like because I say that to be like, what is their end game? What is their goal at the end of all this? Like at the end of what is at the end of the rainbow for them? I just I can't see what that is, but that and that's with a lot, not just them. It's just a lot of groups. Like none of them really have an end game or just a end plan. Just how like just a goal, and it just spirals out of control. It's just it's ridiculous.
Yeah, with the Phantom Collective, Menace, War Campaign, I don't know how many other groups. I'm just naming the ones off the top, but
Yeah.
As far as like other groups though that are against, let's say more the extreme left identity politics, I think the end game is they wanted all to go back to the way it used to be, meaning, you had diversity, but it wasn't forced. That's all I get from it. But at the same time, it's about organizing those thoughts into the goal, not just throwing hate back and forth with SJWs or putting them in check as if it's a victory. These are very small battles that will not win a war. And that's how I look at it. It's like you're not going to win no wars name calling on social media back and forth. There's like I have an absolute disdain for Ryan Johnson's behavior. It's very arrogant and very bubbleized, and I have a problem with him. Now, if there was ever a chance down the road where he'd be like, well, let's have a discussion, I'd be like, all right, let's have a discussion. But I'd be willing to go, and I wouldn't go into it being an asshole. I'd go into it going, okay, can you explain to me why you're doing what you're doing, and then saying the things you're saying, and not thinking that these comments or things that you are saying don't affect other people, and then to collectively address people in such a way is acceptable behavior. The immaturity that I've seen displayed on social media as a whole, and this is on his side, this is on our side, in general, right? Meaning name calling and you're this and you're a toxic male. It's like, I'm so glad you guys have the playbook on the lingo. Now let's try applying it in real life by not being a cuck. That would be great. Right? But you see these Twitter battles that go on back and forth, and especially with the maturity levels of, like, I don't know, I would say maybe a 10-year-old now. I've seen 16 and 17-year-olds with more maturity now. But it's the nastiness that goes on and the pettiness, and it's like, this doesn't solve anything. This is just puffing the chest out, look at my size of my dick kind of behavior, and after a while it gets old. That doesn't solve anything. It's not doesn't resolve anything at all as far as change. Like you were saying before, what's the purpose of it, of this movement, if it's nothing more than name calling? It's like, you need to have more class about it. You're accusing your opponent of being hateful and nasty and all these things, then be better. Right? You want to be better than that. You're accusing them of being, what do you call it? Being sexist towards men, or being sexist, racist towards whites, or whatever it is, whatever the hell argument you're going for. You need to do what you're saying. You need to apply those same rules that you're demanding of the opponent onto yourself by how you speak, how you interact, and how you present yourself in a real life manner and online manner too. Like this is all
Mhm.
fucking common sense stuff. With the amount, it's like it's amazing to me that the people who often like the squeaky wheels get the grease, but it's usually the rusty squeaky wheels because you're not representing this quote group of people very well by name calling and calling people out or crucifying individuals and or crucifying internally within groups. Like there are certain people like smaller YouTubers where they have done this behavior repeatedly. Now this can be applied across the board, especially recently, but just going at each other in such a way, it doesn't solve anything. It's cartoony behavior that's really just for clicks and entertainment, but that is a fleeting moment that doesn't really reflect well on an individual or whatever brand you're creating or have already. Like it makes no fucking sense, you know, no sense. So when it comes to collectivism, like I don't like it, and it's because it's just like being in high school and being involved with the wrong, like people you don't want to have to deal with, but you're in the same class with
Yeah,
them.
sitting at the wrong table at lunch.
Right, exactly. It's like, man, why'd I, you know, and there, you know, some people I'm, you know, like I have had, I would say as far as I haven't had outright issues with I guess as far as like a real issue, for the exception of like maybe two people, and it's because I believe there's a power in words. So like when you say you're dedicated to something and then you flip flop on it, tells me that
Mhm.
you have a weakened backbone.
Right.
And also when you have people speaking out both sides of their mouth, saying one thing and then doing another, or claiming one thing and then not understanding how their actions and words reflect each other, I think that says a lot to the individual, that they're not understanding of who they really are. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't have a good idea of a sense of self. They're just out
Mhm.
to make those clicks and get that clout and, like you said, ride the dicks of whatever social media platform they can. You know.
Right.
So over time, all this shit
And,
comes tumbling. It's just a question of when.
and that's the problem where it's just like I don't have a problem with these groups, but like a lot of people just gotta be their own leaders and
Mm-hmm.
just start your own shit. Like, don't stop riding other people's coattails and stuff. Like,
You don't
because you
need
don't know how that ship's gonna sail. That ship could sail for so long and then just crash and burn and
absolutely,
just
and you
you
don't.
know it.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, I was just saying like there's just way too many groups out here. It's just like just people can't be their own individuals anymore. It's crazy. Like,
Absolutely.
and it even starts with like Democrats and Republicans. I was like, yo, stop choosing sides. They're both equally bad.
Yes.
And
Yep. Yep. I agree. Because at the end,
I hate that. I hate that whole. Oh, you gotta choose the lesser of two evils. It's like, no, fuck that.
mm-hmm.
I'm not. I don't like both sides, so I'm just gonna ride with me.
Right. Because that's the danger of politics too. Is like you're voting for the lesser of two evils, but it's still evil, and
Mm,
it's not going to do any good. You're not going to make a real impactful change. And they said, well, you need to, you know, all this campaign shit they used to do about rocking your vote, and then they went after like third party voters or people who voted for anybody but a Democrat or a Republican as the reason cause that like we ended up with someone like Trump in office. And the reality is no, the reason why we have Trump in office is because of you. Okay, they're the policies of these different political groups are not grounded in the reality for most Americans. They do not like being preached to. They don't like people who have a lot of money or
hmm
influence. I would say power, but influence, telling them what to do, as if they are coming to their house for Thanksgiving dinner to eat on Tupperware, you know, fucking plates. They're not doing that. They're not involved in your daily lives in that same context, so they don't know what it's like outside of that bubble. They just do their campaigns and kiss some babies and wave their little hands around and pretend like they have an idea of the common man. Um, when it's not, and that's why Trump got elected, was because even though there's this rich white dude, he was on TV
mm,
and in everybody's home, and they don't really know who he is. They just know his persona, and they're gonna go after somebody that's the closest to understanding their predicament, not someone who is going to tell them how racist, sexist, or useless they are because they're
hmm
white or because they're of a certain ethnic group. Pick one. And I think that, when you have enough propaganda in any group, it ruins the cause and the purpose of it right away. And when you have people like, this is the other thing, you have a lot of infighting about power, or I'm a leader, or I'm ahead of this, or I'm a part of this. And, despite what's been claimed about certain groups, whether that's SGWs or likewise, they all will seek power and they'll step on every person below them to get there. And you see it with clout chasing and all types of shit,
Definitely.
But yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I don't as far as the fandom, I have no issue with the fandom menace or the collective or any of them. I can't sign on to a collective anything because it's against my core beliefs of fuck the system. I think that, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't want to join any like Pacific group, like just especially like that. Like I seen some shit with them. It's nah. Like I don't got no issues. I respect anybody that could just create a movement like that because it's not easy.
No.
You know, you got to be able to like, it's something. It has to do with the way you carry yourself and the way you talk. That's how people get attracted to that and whatnot. And but it's also that's why I say it's also dangerous too, especially let's talk about like YouTube, like when you're getting monetized and now you're making money off the stuff. That's dangerous within itself too, because a lot of people that are used to getting tons of super chats that might get to their head, and it gets kind of spooky because when I see people like that getting like hundreds and hundreds of dollars of super chats, what I'm saying? Like, if you're responding to all those, that's cool and everything, but just you also gotta be mindful of those people too, because you don't know if they're just using you for financial gain. Because most people on YouTube, they know how to finesse. It's real. Like, people know how to finesse. Some people don't, and that's how people get called out for shit like that and whatnot. But
right.
but I don't knock nobody getting their money. It's just like times are difficult now to even get money. So it's just like you just gotta get it how you get it. But just be mindful of that shit. Like you're giving your money away to a complete stranger that you have not seen in the physical and stuff. So you don't know how they are off camera. So
right.
Just
because then there's that danger of who are you funding?
Yeah.
Some kind of shit. You don't know. It's the internet has a lot of, I don't know. I've seen a lot of weird shit, man. Like, I've met some really, really awesome people, and I've met some people that I'm like, okay, like that one, just careful about and make a mental note of, and keep a distance to a point because of obvious reasons. But there is a lot of that, like the obligation, like of someone. There's some people I've noticed, like not on mine, but on other channels, like once they donate money to a specific YouTuber, suddenly they feel like that person owes them.
Yeah.
And there's this weird ownership thing, or I've seen this with like men and women and women and men, where they will send them donations, and all of a sudden there's an expectation connected to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, are you looking for a home?
I spent $10. I deserve to get my feet rubbed or some shit. Like,
that's what it is. Like, they're suddenly like that's your wife or your husband, like that kind of weird shit. And I've seen the phrase "internet wife," "internet husband." I'm like, no, scary. It's just this very weird sense. People have a hard time. It's weird. There's a lot of unhappy people.
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's clear. And a lot of it is, internet related. It's based on communication skills not being there in real life. Maybe it's due to different problems in their own, the individual's life, maybe health or physical or whatever it is. But it's strange behavior. and it's really obsessive. It's almost like stalking for some of these individuals. I haven't seen a whole lot, but when I have seen them, I'm like, oh my.
Right.
you know, you know those people. You see them in chat, you're like, oh, that guy. There's that girl. You know, you can see them at a distance what they're doing, and it's like I've given people a heads up before and they didn't take it, and shit happened. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, man. He or she, we're up to no good. Let's put it that way. You know, the person giving them the money, and I was like, dude, there's always something weird about it, and you know, I think genuinely there's some really great people that are just like, they're good people online, for sure. But there's a lot of shady shit. But anyway, is there anything else you wanted to add, Purp? Maybe any upcoming? Because I know you have quite a few videos you have posted on and off throughout the week. But what's coming up for you?
Well, yeah, what's coming up for me is I'm not gonna drop any more videos until probably like Thursday because I'm gonna be doing a lot of night work. I don't know if it's gonna be just for this week. Hopefully, it's just for this week. I'm not looking forward to working 9 at night till like 5 o'clock in the morning. Not looking forward to that. But I got to make some extra money because it's the holidays. It's getting to that time. So, but yeah, I got American Horror Story. I'm gonna be starting to review that Thursday. Let me see. I'm drawing a blank, but as far as I know, I know I got, you know, American Horror Story.
Carnival Row?
Carnival Row, I haven't finished it yet.
Okay.
Like, I'm on like episode 5. I just haven't gotten back to it.
Those are big episodes.
Yeah, I haven't gotten back to that yet. But, you know, I'm watching other things and whatnot. I'm still watching Power. That's still going on. That's usually for like Sundays. But yeah, it's just right now, like my next video that I'm looking at is the American Horror Story season 9. Yeah, season 9.
Now are you?
And then I think no, that's not until like 2 or 3 weeks. I was thinking about Walking Dead, but that's not coming out for another like 2 or 3 weeks. So.
Right. And Snowfall, are you done with that?
Yeah, Snowfall season finale was last week, so I'm done with that. And I put out my prediction videos for season 4.
Okay.
So yeah, so American Horror Story will be pretty much replacing that for like that Wednesday, Thursday night videos and stuff like that.
There's a lot of stuff that's coming out. It feels like it comes in these huge waves where like everything kind of comes out at one time and you're like, oh shit, you know, it's like trying to grab everything that's coming out at once. I've had to go back and catch up on stuff.
Like I'm looking at just October, November, I'm like, damn, I gotta do a lot of videos. I got a lot of videos to do. I'm gonna get it done. Because October's gonna be what I'm dubbing as Purptober. You know, my own spin on it.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah, I try to talk about as much horror stuff as possible, even though it mixed in with the stuff I'm already doing. But yeah, that's what I got coming, pretty much, for right now.
That's cool. Because yeah, there's a lot of shows coming out. There's a lot of films. Like you have Zombieland 2 is coming out. Joker is coming out.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. At least as far as we get into going just into the September, October, and then you got November, December, and you have a whole nother batch of films, which is a whole nother story. But it's going to be busy this end of year. It feels like.
Yeah.
We went through a
and I was just saying, once I get caught up with everything this year, I definitely want to take like a 2-week break, starting next year. Just take it like a week or 2 off.
Yeah.
From putting out videos.
Because it's a grind after a while. It's like, man, this is insane.
It's fun. Yeah, I have fun with it, but you know, sometimes personal stuff gets in the way. You gotta take a break from shit.
Oh, you mean you have a life, Purp? Holy shit.
Yeah.
You have people around you who love you. You know, I don't. It's easy to get caught up and busy and working on different projects online or just trying to get videos put together. And you know, I'm really glad that you were able to come on today with me. I thought it was great. Sorry, we were all over the place. I'm sorry we got off on tangents, but that's kind of the purpose too. I think you learn more about people by just talking to them about random stuff, you know, positioning and rambling about shit. I think when you have an energy that's more traditional, things get boring. Like, Perp, what's your favorite fucking color? You're like, purple. Okay. Like, you know, like...
It's obvious. It's obvious.
Right. Oh, wow, that's a shocker. So, you know, having a little more in-depth, and in the future, you know, I'm sure there'll be other topics I'll come back to you with and be like, what do you think of this? And I'll actually, you know, bring it to you and see what you think. And I'm hoping eventually, too, to have more, like, bigger, like a more round table type thing where we all get together and have a conversation on video rather than streaming, because streaming has its negatives and its positives for a channel. Like we've all talked about how it can bring the algorithms down versus helping the videos and the people in the videos with support. So it'd be cool to have other conversations, especially, you know, outside of let's say Marvel and Star Wars. Holy shit. But as we get close to Star Wars, I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be ugly.
Oh, I cannot wait till this next trailer comes out, because that's all people are going to talk about until the movie comes out.
Yep.
And then when the movie comes out, people are going to talk about that for, like, God knows how
Another
long.
year, at least. At least a year.
That's why I say I refuse to just have my channel be about one thing. I can't do it. I can't do it, because it's just like, as soon as that news and stuff starts dying off from that, so will your channel. So.
Oh yeah. And you know it's going to be bad. Like, the whole Star Wars thing, like, whatever's in the next trailer, because this teaser footage wasn't shit, so I was like, you know, there wasn't much there to see for me. I was like, okay, we got Darth looking Rey. That doesn't mean anything because it looks CGI. Everything about that character in that scene, it looked very CGI. I wasn't impressed too much with the way it looked, but as far as everything else,
I got to see the motion.
Yes, I need to see her moving a bit, and I'm sure that's like I'm sure it's either a couple of different things. You know, it could be a flashback, kind of like with Luke and or the Vision, whatever, with Luke in the cave and all that shit, beheading Darth Vader kind of crap, or you know, maybe it is her. I don't know.
And that's my thing about Star Wars and with Disney. It's just like, you know, people give them so much shit, but you know, at the same time, Disney's just doing their job. You know, they spent $4 billion on this property, and they could do whatever the fuck they want with it. Honestly, like, you know, and if you want to blame somebody, blame George Lucas. He should have never sold it. He should have just took that shit to the grave. Because, like, what did what did the guy say that made Back to the Future? He's like,
Robert Zemeckis.
He's like, they're not going to make another one over my dead body.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, he's protecting his franchise. And
and
that's one part I didn't with Lucas doing that. I know that he was probably getting sick of being harassed about finishing the trilogy out on his own, or, you know, picking up whatever. But I would have rather have had him, even if he did bring in JJ, okay, which a lot of people do not like JJ Abrams, and I understand. I have no problem with him. I enjoyed The Force Awakens. I was very pleased by it. But then the second one really did it for me, and I was like, I don't know what the hell this was. Because I really enjoyed Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was well done. I enjoyed it. I think I own it. I gotta see. But yeah.
And like I said, I understand why people don't like The Last Jedi, because, like, when I got done watching, I was like, yeah, this is definitely not gonna... This might not sway a lot of people, because for me, I was just like, it had just such a different tone where it just didn't seem like the same old Star Wars, you know. And you know, not to say like the old Star Wars is bad, but they had Star Wars as a whole is too formulaic, you know. Like, they'll have certain things, but like they won't go. They played it too safe, and you know, I think that's why a lot of people like the Force Awakens, because they played it safe. They could have went way left with that,
Mm-hmm.
but they played it safe. They're like, all right, we're going to introduce another third Death Star and call it Star Killer Base and shit. Like it's the same thing. It's the
Yes, it
same
is.
movie, you know. And they could have literally done that with The Last Jedi and had that be just an updated version of Empire Strikes Back and
Right.
with the little things
And
and that's
probably,
why I kind of like like the movie because it's a completely different tone shift, and I think that's what Star Wars needed. But hardcore fans weren't ready for that because they're so used
to the formula.
to just yeah, they're just used to that formula already. Like they don't want to see nothing new. But you know, I can understand people's complaint, like, "Oh, this might mess up with certain things." This is why I tell people stop making books about shit that's not in the movies. You
Yeah.
know, because people, and I think that's why a lot of people are upset about this Star Wars is because they are so used to the expanded universe stuff
Right.
that that's all they're knowing. That's all they know. And then when they go to Luke, then they go to look at a character like Luke, then it's just, you know, I can understand that. But for me, I don't read none of those books. I was like, no, you're not gonna, no, put that in the movie.
Right.
That's just how I am. You know, it's like watching the Harry Potter movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they make a bunch of side books
Yeah.
that I had no idea about,
And
and it's just,
I think the thing is that with Star Wars, because it's been around since, well, the late 70s, 77, you know, whatever.
mm,
Since it's been around for so long, and there was this hiatus where there were absolutely no real Star Wars films until like the late 90s, right? Um,
mm,
they had all this time to fill that gap with stories. So
right,
all those books and fictional novels, things that were brought out, were approved, semi-approved by George Lucas or whoever, were brought into the open. So it was one of those things where people, what's the word? People were like, okay, well, we've had all this time. We have the prequel trilogy. We have the original trilogy. Now we need to have the quote ending trilogy.
mm,
If that formula had stayed the same, and because there was so much supplemental books and things, and there's a lot of canon, quote unquote canon, of what's official and not official and all that shit, I will say I do think they should have. I don't mind them being daring. I don't mind them
mm,
taking things into a different perspective to some extent. I think the problem I had with The Last Jedi was it wasn't a well constructed film as far as the plots and the points. There was way too much. I love the planet, the blood red planet, you know, with the blood rock.
yeah,
I thought that was fantastic. The sequence there with the Millennium Falcon going through like the caverns and shit, it was absolutely amazing. That was a Star Wars moment, right? Because you love those scenes with the fighting and all this other shit. But then you get the Holdo and her crazy Admiral Gender Studies, the purple haired
mm,
chick. Laura Dern's character is out there, you know, acting like she's reinforcing everything and keeping people out of the dark and not really working as a team, where there seemed to be some type of
but
power, what do you call it, fighting for power, in a sense,
mm,
within this subgroup. And that was my assumption, is what I took from her character. I didn't see her as what some people have said, her being this empowered female character, nor do I think her character brought anything new to the story. You know,
no,
I,
no, it's like and to follow with that, like my whole thing with her character is she was just there to put Poe in check because you know Poe was out of line. Poe got a lot of people killed, so you know like any other military would do, they would just demote you right now and see if and you know her whole being there, you know, it was little. It's just it wasn't. It didn't take me out of the movie, pretty much, you know, because what I got from the movie as a whole is, you know, what you're starting to see is, you know, like hero worship, like how
mm-hmm.
dangerous that could be, you know, and that saying is like, you should never meet your heroes. You might be disappointed,
That's so true.
and I loved how they played on that and how you know Luke, like Mark Hamill, got to pretty much play Mark Hamill you know, in the Star Wars, where you saw that Luke was vulnerable, where and stuff, and it kind of just if you take the books out of it, it makes sense why Luke is the way he is now. Like, you know, like I said, he did the same thing as Yoda. He just, when shit got heavy, he needed to leave. You know, you know. With Luke, he just, you know, he separated himself from, because just think about all the shit that Luke had to do. You know, that wouldn't drive you crazy. You just, you know, and you had this one. You made this one miscalculation or misjudgment about your nephew and stuff, you know, and that's your family. And we don't even know how close him and Ben were at that time. They were probably, it was probably like Luke and Ben were probably Luke and Kylo were probably way closer than, you know, Kylo was to his actual father.
That's true.
You know, we don't know that, and that's probably why he wanted to dip away. But you know, that's headcanon. So, but that's what it's just certain people have some real good points about like why The Last Jedi is not that good, or you know, some people, a lot of other people, just it's like little nitpicks.
Yeah.
Like I could literally nitpick everything out of every single Star Wars movie, but you know, I'm not going to do that because I still enjoy the movies overall. But overall, like the whole franchise is okay. It's not like a masterpiece that people want to make it
Right.
out to be. It's not. That's just my opinion.
Well, yeah.
But
I mean, everyone has their franchise that they are more aligned to. I know with you, you absolutely love the Harry Potter franchise.
yes, I love that.
And
Perfect.
and that's you know, everyone has that. So it's like for some people it's Star Wars, some people it's for Star Trek, right? And you can go down the list of different like MCU and all that shit. But
Hmm.
when it comes to the Star Wars stuff, there was a lot of lost opportunities and too many changes at the wrong time, especially, you know, in a formula based series. If you want to get out of the Star Wars formula, you let it go with the last of that, I guess, uh, last set of the whole story. So you're going into episode 9.
Hmm.
If this is it, then let it all end at that, meaning that formula, and then start a whole nother series or expanded universe story. I'm okay. I'm actually looking forward to that. Now, am I gonna go run out to a theater and just go see whatever? No, not really. It's gonna take something to get me there.
And,
You know.
and that's the thing about Star Wars for me. It's just like I'm at the point where like yeah, I like to enjoy it just to enjoy it, but now it's just like all this shit, just all these groups like just complaining about like a movie that hasn't even come out yet. It's just now it's just like ruining my hype for it, you know. And that has nothing to do with what they're saying. It's just like it's just you're taking the fun out of it like completely.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I'm not even involved with none of this shit. It just gets ridiculous and and for me, like how you say, it should just end, and they shouldn't just do nothing Star Wars anymore because it's just because my thing, what irritates me about Star Wars is they stay in the past or like somewhere within the original trilogy or the prequels. They'll never go forward. And
Yeah.
it's like we're gonna go another 40 years with y'all just talking about stories that just took place around the original trilogy. Like what? This is Star Wars. Like,
Well, it's kind of like if somebody came and took Harry Potter apart, and then there was established canon or stories, right? And they were to take
hmm
those characters and say, well, we're going to do this with them now. Yeah, it's not like the books, but we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And yeah, that isn't like their personality, but we're going to make it their personality. That would piss off the Harry Potter fandom like beyond belief.
yeah, it would make me feel some type of way. Like if they decided to reboot it and just change everybody's backstory. But then again, I'll be like, all right, I don't need to watch this.
Right, like
I still
exactly.
got the original.
It's
Yeah.
like, I think when you get into geeks, okay, let's say it like this. When you get into geeks, and there's some stuff that I absolutely have a problem with, and the Star Wars crap. But
Mm.
I'm not complete. I'm just not sold on Episode 9. I'm getting drugged to go. I'm not buying that ticket. Um, I make that clear. I am not buying that ticket. But it's something that my son and I have always, that's our thing, Star Wars. Like ever since he was little, I introduced him to it, and I
That's dope.
introduced him to different ones. He got into Harry Potter, of course, but that was the one thing he and I got into together because I really love Star Wars and Star Trek too. But he wasn't old enough. I think Star Trek's a little bit more advanced, and Star Wars is a little bit more, kid friendly,
Yeah.
where it's understandable and it's not too technical. And then when he gets to a certain age, he might end up liking it. Who knows? But it was just the whole idea of having Jedi Knights and all this other cool shit, and then you have a bad guy and blah blah blah. Very cool. But then when all these came out, he and I were in the theater, and it was like we both just didn't know what to say at the end of that film. We didn't understand what we had watched, so I did watch that movie
Mm.
twice. I couldn't watch it again after the second time because I was like, yeah, this is pretty much what I didn't want to remember. But it was not very memorable, and I was more
Mm.
irritated by it seemed like easy outs as far as writing goes, and frayed connection to plot. I was like, what the fuck was the purpose of this? And then I saw the cut scenes. I'm like, why didn't you leave that in there? That would have helped. The character. It would have helped the film a little bit with context. But it was just a very shitty, thrown together film for me, and I was like very disappointed by it. I was like, you know what? We can do better than this, and it's sad. Now, all the childish behavior, getting back to how the geek community is, there's a lot of egos where these people feel like they're the gatekeepers of the information. At the same time, though, there are actual loyalist fans who just love the franchise but really felt like, well, why does this film feel synthetic? Why does it feel superficial? And
Mm.
a lot of the interactions between characters that are out of, not explained. Like, I've tried in my head thinking, well, maybe this is, maybe Luke is possessed and that's why he's acting like this, because there wasn't a whole lot of, I was hoping that there'd be a lot more information as to why certain characters had become a hermit, for example, with Luke.
Mm.
Or why did Han, just up and take
Yeah.
off? Stuff like that.
And that's why I think a lot of people, when they saw that, they started thinking about the EU stuff, and just like they didn't separate themselves from that,
Well, yeah.
and like that affected their movie going experience. But I also have this theory that I just don't think Star Wars is what it is like when it first came out. Like there's so like comic book movies have taken over, so
Yeah.
like a lot of people are not going to be into that anymore. Even if you told a good story, I don't think people would be into it
And I'll be honest
like
with you,
that.
I don't care for any of the Marvel films. I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm a big Marvel comic book fan. I'm a Marvel card collector. I enjoy that stuff. When it comes to the films, I don't waste my time because I'm not interested. It's a lot of it's because I've already resigned myself in that situation because uh,
Hmm.
what do you call it? It's based in comics. It came out of those things. I don't expect to see that on the screen. If it is, great. If it's not, whatever. In the end, I don't give a shit because they're just movies. The comics and the other things that came before it, the actual stuff that started the story, that created the story and made the vision, the images the way they are. Those things matter more to me because that's nostalgic for me. I'm okay with it. And some of this shit came out well before I was born, so I don't really give a shit. It's
Like,
like
like,
Batman. I love Batman, but I'm not,
hmm
I'm not a fanatic about going to see all the films either.
it's like imagine if they just come up with a He-Man movie coming out in like 2021. Like, how many people, like besides the people who have grown up with the television series, like how many of the like newer people will they attract? Like,
I think they
will
will.
Well, like I'm saying, like, would the casual moviegoers care about this? Like,
Um,
unless they put The Rock as He-Man or something like that. Like, that's the only time a
I
person will care.
I
Like,
think it
really
might
care.
because in a sense, He-Man and just like She-Ra, they're kind of like in their own way a superhero, and
Hmm.
because they're still riding that wave of the superhero plague, I guess. Um, they're gonna. I think those films will actually be successful if the reviews come out meaning like from natural, like average moviegoers, not
And,
mainstream review bullshit. We're
and see that's what I was talking about with like is Star Wars really because Star Wars to me when I look at it it can be looked not like it's not really it doesn't really have that comic book feel to it
hmm
because it's more like
well, it was never a
yeah
comic book. That's the point
yeah
of it.
yeah
These were
yeah
all
it
movie
is
movies.
it,
Those are
and
different genres.
yeah yeah and like Star Wars to me when I look at it it's more it should be more story driven, which a lot of casual nowadays moviegoers don't really gravitate towards. They want the more action, more action, just popcorn type movies and stuff, and that's just how it is now. It's just like, and I feel, and I just don't feel like in 20, well, we're going into 2020 that like Star Wars is as big as it was when it first came, or just people don't like certain people like just people don't care about it as much. It's sort of like with Fantastic Beasts. Yeah, that doesn't have Harry Potter in it, but it's still a Harry Potter movie,
Yeah,
and it's still nobody really cared for that,
right.
you know.
Because it was story driven.
Hmm.
And I think, with Star Wars, I think they can make a recovery depending on how they do it. Um, Meaning going into more action based, like The Mandalorian, might be a very smart move if they do it well. If they suck at it, then, well, that's the way it goes. Disney Plus strikes me so far as direct to video, the way that they're producing some of this shit. The Lady and the Tramp crap is absolute horrendous. I was like, this is crap. And it didn't look like Lady and the Tramp. I mean, I didn't get the feel of it. There was this focus on only the animals.
Hmm.
And when it came to the human beings,
It,
you didn't see them. You just saw their, like, legs.
is that the only show that is premiering on Disney Plus is The Mandalorian this year?
Uh, no. I think, well, as far as Star Wars,
Is
yes.
is Captain the Bucky and Falcon the Falcon and Winter Soldier shit coming out this year too?
I have no
Or is that
idea.
next year?
I think it's next year. I think a
See,
lot of
is that
stuff's coming
and
out next year. They have a bunch of other, like, as far as films and whatever that kind of stuff. I know that next year is going to be a bigger year for this stuff, but Mandalorian is the one that's leading the pack on it in
and I
October.
think that's what they should have done is instead of do it weekly because yeah, that's probably better for them like money wise, but at the same time it's just like I'm the type of person like I like to binge it. Like if I could binge it, I'd rather binge it. Or it's just like I could watch it at my own pace. Like I feel like they should have just put out all the episodes. Have that be your big launch. You have all the episodes, so you can watch it um however you want to watch it. Because I was like, you still got Netflix ending this year pretty damn strong. I
Mm-hmm.
just got done watching season 3 of Top Boy, which was a British television show that was on like Channel 4
Mm-hmm.
uh back in the day, but it got canceled. It got picked back up. Shit is phenomenal, phenomenal. Like it's like they didn't change up nothing. They didn't put no
Spin on it.
overlining, yeah, spin on it. It's just like the first 2 seasons. It has that same flavor. It's just
So they kept
a
it
bigger,
going the same feeling and rhythm to it as
yeah.
opposed
It's just
yeah.
just with a bigger budget, which it's a phenomenal series. And then you got Breaking Bad coming out next month. I think it's next
That's the
month.
movie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. You got the Breaking Bad movie, which people have been waiting 6 years for that, 6 7 years. And then you got the Witcher series, which that's a whole other fans. And
Yeah.
so, and then you got Eddie Murphy's Dolomite. So it's just like they got all these different flavors coming. It's just like, what do you got? You got just the Mandalorian, and you're only you're only going to be watching like what like if it's going by weekly, you're only getting like 6 episodes, something like that. Just throwing out a number like 5 6 episodes, and you don't even know if this show's going to be good.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't heard enough about, like, their actual, like, I know they're going to be doing a Lizzie McGuire series on there. with
Oh,
Disney Plus.
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
like we all need that. And
That's the thing too. It's just like, not to cut you off, but it's
that's
just
right.
like like Disney. I gotta give them respect because they're really playing people that are buying into this. Like these companies are smart. They're not dumb. Like they're just going to fill that service up with, their classics and a bunch of the remakes, and it's like, oh, we got all our Disney classics, but don't worry about our shitty remakes over here. That's just, that just comes with the package
So
and
like,
whatnot. But
I'm looking at their rollouts, basically all the live action series that they're going to be doing. This is their rollout for the first 2 years. So High School Musical, the series is a 10 episode scripted series that'll start at launch. Then The Mandalorian will available at launch. That'll start then. Lizzie McGuire's series will be also. It looks like it'll basically be her reprising the role in a sequel to the 2001 Disney Channel series. It's saying, oh, she's a 30-year-old millennial. Blah blah blah. New York. Blah blah blah. So sometime within the first year, somewhere in the next 2 years. Actually, they don't have an actual date. Diary of a
oh
Female
man,
President will be the year one. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier will be in the year one. They don't have a date for it. It's just within the first year. Also, the Loki series they're doing. Um,
hmm
Tom Hiddleston will be taking on that role again. It's slated for a 2021 premiere. WandaVision is going to be set
okay,
for 2021. Muppets Now, another series, is in 2020. Um,
mm,
Untitled Cassian Andor series, that's with Diego Luna, doing
okay,
Cassian Andor for whatever. That's in year two. It's in development right now. Then you have the Obi-Wan series that's in 2020. Marvel's Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, and She-Hulk are all in development. Now, as far as animated crap, it's Marvel's What If series, whatever the hell that is. It's an animated series focusing on different heroes from the MCU. That's in 2021. Forky asks a question. That is the Disney, the stupid Forky bastard from Toy
yeah,
Story.
he's hilarious.
So he's going to have, it's called Forky Asks a Question, is a craft project created from trash. So and it says that in the word, and so he has important questions about how the world works, such as what is love, what is time, blah blah blah.
Oh boy, I already know where that's going.
And
I
so,
already know where that's going.
and so timing is available at launch, so that'll be there. Spark Sports is going to be available from Pixar. It's going to be short film series designed to cover new storytellers, and it's available at launch.
But
At lunch.
but out of all those that you named, like there's gonna probably be some actually good series out of that. But it's just like I don't think it's gonna be enough. Like it's enough to be competitive against Netflix, but a lot of people are not talking about what Apple's doing with their Apple TV Plus, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Even though those shows are probably all going to be shit, who knows? What they did, what was really smart, is like if you buy any like new iPhone, iPad, or just product, whatever, they give you a year free of that service. So you already have a base, whatever, for like your first year, which is hella smart.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time that year is up, people are already going to be locked in.
Yep.
Like most of those people are already going to be locked in, and that's big too. But people can say what they want with Netflix, but it's just like Netflix is cranking out shit way like every week. Until you can compete with that, then whether it's good or bad, that's whoever is watching. For whoever's watching to judge it on that. But
Right.
to
And
drop like a movie or a series, like multiple series, like a week is insane. Like I'm looking, like I always go on Netflix like every week just to see what they got. They always show up some new stuff. Like it's either some foreign stuff, and they have a lot of foreign stuff on there too. So they have that international appeal too, and that's another thing. It's just like they have so many different flavors that you know Disney's only going to be able to cater to the family and the children. They're not looking at like the whole spectrum of things and whatnot. Yeah, they got Hulu too, but I don't think they're going to put things like I think that's where they're just gonna put a lot of throwaway shit onto Hulu and whatnot. But
Yeah,
who knows?
Hulu
It's definitely gonna be interesting though. It's definitely gonna be
Hulu's gonna
interesting.
have a lot to catch up with. I don't know. Hulu's one of those services. It's like they have a lot of content, but at the same time, it's still very limited. You
Yeah,
know?
and they've been around. They've been around almost as long as Netflix, and they haven't been able to even put a dent into them. And they're cheaper than them.
Yeah,
They have way more of more television selections and everything like that. And but people don't. You know, people still have Netflix.
yep, exactly. And it's like, Netflix. In the end, I'll go to Netflix for harder to find films. I mean, Amazon Prime is pretty good. Those are the two I go to all the time. Like, my
Hmm.
oldest has Hulu, but he's always on Prime or on Netflix. I mean, we always end up going back to Netflix because that's where all the new content really comes from. I mean, Prime has some, but Netflix just beats them all with the amount of production.
And I see that Hulu is starting to put live sports on there and stuff, which is really that's big too. But who's to say that Netflix won't start doing that? Like,
Dude,
imagine instead of weekly shows, they could just have like a show come out weekly, but like live or something like that.
right. And or Netflix could do kind of like how, maybe not as extreme, hopefully, but like how Prime has it set up where you have different packages for different things. Like, let's say you want to watch NFL streaming, and I know that Prime used to do that. Amazon Prime did, and they also do it for like Hallmark Channel or Broadway musicals, for example, or classic television, or uh, certain networks. Like you can actually access stars and stuff and things like that through Prime, kind of like you would with a cable package, right? Um, and I think that maybe if Netflix did like Netflix Sports or something like that, like you could just pay an
Mm.
extra, like, I don't know, $10 to $15 or whatever a month just for the add-on, especially, having special package deals during the NFL season. Um, that would be fantastic because then you could set it up where you can have it set up in the sports Netflix subscription where you have all soccer, like, football is separated, all those things are separated into its own categories, and you can have specialized access to whatever sports of your interest as opposed to
And
you know other shit.
see, that's why like I got kind of tip my hat off to Disney because now they own all the sports stuff. So it's like
Hmm. And that's
can't even
like
do this
the
with that. But
monopolization of this is very interesting because they haven't monopolized 100%, but they're damn near close.
we'll start seeing the effects of all this within the next like 5 to 10 years.
I agree.
See everything change. I definitely think we're gonna see a huge shift going into like 5 years from now or something like that.
Oh
Something
yeah,
big's gonna happen.
absolutely, I
But like
agree.
I wish we had more apps. Like there's this app that it's called Verve that it's like literally like it's a streaming service that has multiple different channels on it. Like it'll have like Boomerang, so you have
Oh,
everything with
okay.
you have all the old like Hanna
Cartoons.
Barbera like you have all those old like cartoons and stuff from like Yogi the Bear to like the Jetsons and Flintstones and
It's really
all
good.
the movie
Yeah.
specials and stuff. Then they have like Nick Splat. They used to have Crunchyroll on there. No, they still have Crunchyroll on there. They used to have Shutter on there also. It was pretty dope, and you got all that stuff for like $10. But all these streaming services need it. Just that's why I bootleg. Just if you want to really save money, just get yourself an Android or an Android device, like an Android device, and just hook up Cody.
Yeah.
A lot of money will be saved.
Because in the end, I mean, it's a lot of money they're trying to make up for profits by either going
Hmm.
through internet providers for one thing, or the streaming services themselves. And it only works to a point, you know what I mean, to keep these things locked up, especially in at this time, like you were saying, with coding, and also with so many mysterious backdoors and other services and third parties that pick up these, whether it's movies or series or whatever. Because there's been things that what really sucks, and I think that this is the biggest Achilles heel for like both movies and for what do you call it, television or animated, whatever, is that the release dates on stuff that are overseas. Like, we don't get a lot of that stuff right away. We're about a year to 2 years behind on releases.
Hmm.
So if there's a film that comes out, let's say in the UK or in Japan or wherever, there's a delay by almost a year to 2 years for either dubbing reasons or for just the licensing,
Yeah.
and bullshit. And I wish there was a way to minimize that, so when a film does come out, we're not waiting that length of time, or looking for, honestly, ways to stream those particular films through those parties, or either the party services directly or indirectly, so you can actually see this shit. It kind of sucks in that way, but
And I and I and I definitely think that within time, I think cable will die, but I think
oh yeah,
it will die in a sense where you're not plugging up like what is that shit called? What is it? It's gonna be to where I can see them doing this. Instead of just hardwiring it to like a satellite or wherever the fuck it's connected to, you're just going to plug your box up into the internet and
like an
whatnot,
actual
and it's just
mainframe.
yeah. So just imagine just having Xfinity or Fios now, and instead of that just being broadcast, it's running off your internet pretty much.
Yeah, they should, and that's the thing. As I wish they would have already done that, but
Yeah,
they need
but
to. They
that's
want to
also
make.
an issue too, because if your
Yeah.
internet goes out, you're fucked.
Oh
So
yeah, it's just like yeah. Oh yeah, we get too relied on wireless and internet-based services because electricity goes out. There goes your phone. If you have like a storm, for example, it takes out towers. You're fucked. You don't have a landline anymore.
hmm
At least with a landline, you know, you still have a phone. So
yeah.
electricity goes out. Good luck making those VoIP calls, man.
Now, I think that will go away too over time. As landlines and stuff,
Oh yeah,
everything will be wireless.
and I think
You get a
that's
wireless
badass.
landline.
Yeah, I don't like that idea, and because of just we lived in the mountains before and had bad storms. If the internet went out or electricity went out, there was no home phone, and the cell phones would work barely when you live in the mountains. So I couldn't make phone calls out. Good luck to you. I'd
Yeah,
have
but
to drive down a mountain maybe to get that reception.
I think with all these streaming services, it's just the beginning of what's to come. It's just like
Hmm.
you're just gonna get you're gonna have a bunch of these streaming services. Then cable will turn into like an online thing
Yeah.
because they're already doing it with like a lot of video games slowly. They're not doing it with all of them, but there's a lot of games that are like just online only and stuff. You got to be
Hmm.
connected to the internet to just even have it function.
Yeah. I think the future will be completely dependent on the internet. I mean, cable is, in my opinion, dead. Like, it's been dead for years, and
Yeah.
I don't watch regular television at all. I haven't watched regular TV in like fucking years, man.
It's crazy because it's like when I was growing up, it's like I had literally, what was it, probably like 50 to 60 channels. Then when Dish Network came around, that changed my life. I love Dish Network. We had thousands of channels, and ain't shit to watch still. It's
Mm-hmm. It's true.
crazy.
Well, anyway, I'm so glad you came on. We were able to talk and stuff about all
No
of it.
problem.
We went off everywhere, but it's fine because it's talking, man. But
Yeah,
thanks, Perp, for coming on, and I will put Perp's links in the description box below that you guys can take a minute and check out and see what you think. And he has really good. He's always covering different television shows and films, especially as we get into Perptober. That's approaching in October. Then you'll probably have lots of other stuff to check out. So thanks, Perp, so much for coming on today.
no problem.
All right, I will talk to everybody later. Have a good afternoon.